You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome to this episode of the KCSN Draft Show. I'm DJ Kissel, joined by my special guest who will join us each week, helping us break down the 2023 NFL Draft from ESPN, Mr. Matt Miller. Matt, thanks for joining us. I know you are fresh off the Combine where we had a chance to catch up and do a show and hang out and have some dinner while we're up there. But what were your main takeaways now that we're just a few days past the NFL Scouting Combine? What stood out to you the most about this year's event?
Yeah, number one, I'm struggling to make dinner choices. No more. Like, we can't just grab steaks and shrimp cocktail every night. So I don't even know. You eat that for like 4 or 5 straight days in India and then come home and have to be like a normal human being again. So a lot of chicken and rice happening for me right now to try to adjust post Indy. But, I thought it was a really good year. This draft class is not the best I've ever covered. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. And I think the Combine this year put some excitement on this group that was not there beforehand. And then especially, I know you guys don't care about this position in Kansas City, but especially at quarterback, because now there are 4 good ones, and I think that makes it a lot of fun. Now, we could poke holes in them, obviously, but there are 4 good ones. There really are. And I think, for our good friend Ryan Poles, it's going to be interesting to see if did the number 1 pick get devalued since there are 4 good quarterbacks. Maybe. So I think it's definitely added some intrigue, but it was a great time. When I get to chop it up with you and Tucker was great. Getting to finally meet Sean Barber in person. It's fantastic. He's a great guy. So it was a very productive week. I would still like to sleep for an entire day at some point in the very near future. But I know for you guys as well, it was a good week, a productive week. I still love the Combine. We had that weird COVID year in 2020 where it was like, hey, there's this thing in Asia that doesn't sound good, and everybody was kind of skittish. Then we didn't even get a Combine in 2021. And so I'm still really appreciative and thankful that, just for that opportunity to, have everyone in the same place again is great.
Yeah, I know there's some rumors and thought out there that it could move from Indy, and I'm definitely one of those old school people. It's because I like the tradition. I like knowing I'm going to go up there. I'm going to hit up Kilroy's. I'm going to go to High Velocity. I'm going to get Prime with my guy Matt Miller sometime while we're up there. It's been a tradition every time we go up there to do something, and it's set up so well. Even this year, as Tucker and I stayed in an Airbnb, we weren't staying in the Marriott with the rest of the Chief scouts and decision makers, and everybody's in all those different hotels downtown. It's easy to get around. You kind of know the lay of the land. And again, I know they've talked about moving it to a handful of different places, probably to make some more money. I understand that they're going to do that, and they're going to at least do the process of thinking through those kinds of things. I just hope that cooler heads prevail, and the people that are there either covering it, or I'm sure if you ask NFL coaches, they like the fact that it's there because, again, they are creatures of habit and they know what they like. They know what to expect. And I think that's a benefit to having it in Indy every year. But Matt, I'm excited to talk about this group of players and throw to these interviews again. This is the first time you've listened to this show. We had a chance to go out. We, as in KC Sports Network, had a chance to go out to the East-West Shrine Bowl in Las Vegas a few weeks ago and sit down with a lot of the players that are available in this year's draft. Last year, we put it out there several times. We had a chance to sit down and talk to Isaiah Pacheco, several weeks before the Chiefs ended up drafting him. And so we've got a lot of these interviews. We kind of group them by position group. And today's position group that we're going to be breaking down are the defensive tackles. And it's an interesting one for the Chiefs because they have some guys who are free agents who competed and put up some production and played some snaps for the defense last year. Derek Nottie, Colin Saunders, and Brandon Williams are all set to become free agents for the Chiefs. Obviously, all played defensive line. And then Tershawn Wharton, who was injured last year, is a restricted free agent, so expect them to bring him back. But had a chance to sit down and talk with 3 different defensive tackles that were out at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Excited to get Matt's opinion on those. We'll throw to those interviews. But Matt, before we get to those interviews and those players, just high level talking about the Chiefs defensive line. Another quick side note, we had a chance out in Indy to talk with Joe Cullen, the Chiefs defensive line coach, also happened to be Sean Barber's college coach. So it was a really fun interview with Sean, myself, and Joe Cullen to sit down and talk about the defensive line room. I joked with Coach Cullen that he was the best free agent pickup the Chiefs had all of last season because multiple guys along that defensive front had the best years of their career. Colin Saunders being one, Chris Jones being another.
Yeah.
Mike Dana had the best year of his career, and even Tershawn Wharton before his injury started to play really, really well. And so shout out to Joe Cullen for what he was able to do with those guys. So go check out that interview. Got it up on YouTube. We have the podcast audio of it as well. But Matt, as you look at the Chiefs defensive line, I know it starts with Chris Jones, but from a draft perspective, because that's the world that you live in with what you do, how do you see this draft for defensive tackles and as it relates to the Chiefs, their system, and the players that they could potentially end up losing if they don't re-sign them?
Yeah, BJ, it's a year in which there's one really good defensive tackle, Jalen Carter from Georgia, who has some legal uncertainty right now. After that, there's a pretty significant drop-off to guys like Kalijah Cansey from Pitt, who is a blur, but he's 6'1", 280. So is that a fit with Joe Cullen and Steve Spagnuolo? Not traditionally. No, that's not what they've really looked at. And Brian Breezy from Clemson, maybe more of what they would normally go for. 6'5", 300-plus pounds, has had some off-field tragedy. His sister died of brain cancer. He had a torn ACL. He had a kidney infection. He had a rough 2 years, really rough 2 years. He was a former top recruit who, as a true freshman, was unstoppable, and he flashed that ability at times. So it is not a year in which, if we had 3 interior defensive linemen go in the first round, that's pretty good this year. It's not a super top-heavy defensive tackle class. Even around 2, there's a pretty significant drop-off. So it is a year, I think, where you're looking more for players who fill a role as opposed to players who are starters. If you lose a nose tackle, okay, this is probably a good year to find a first down run stopper. This is not, you don't replace Chris Jones in this draft class, right? Not that maybe you can't in any draft class, but I don't see that type of player being available in this draft, whether it's outside of Jalen Carter, so outside of the top 5 picks, there's not really a pass rushing defensive tackle in this group. So it's not, top 100 picks, we're not going to see many defensive tackles. 6 or 7 is probably about where we're at right now.
Yeah, and I'm just looking through the free agent tracker, because you got to look at it, and you and I have had this conversation a lot, that when GMs and Brett Veach and his counterparts around the league make decisions based on draft strategy and free agent strategy, they're not just looking at everything in a silo. They're looking at who are the free agents compared to how deep is this draft in this area, and what's that projection look like, not just for this year, but for the next several years. It's 4D chess, and sometimes we try to simplify it so much, especially with social media. We're guilty. I'm guilty of it, but we try to simplify everything to, do you like this player? We have a need, fit it here. Whereas they look, who is the free agent class this year? What's the free agent class next year? And like I said,
draft class next year.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have, and they know that information. We look at it, again, in a silo. These area scouts have a feeling of hey, this kid's a freshman, sophomore. We've been studying these schools. Right. These guys are going to be really good. But again, Derek Nottie, Colin Saunders, Brandon Williams are set to become free agents as of right now, as the time that we're recording this. Obviously, anything can change. But looking at some of the top free agents who are available, Javon Hargrave is the big name one, I would think. Matt, tell me if I'm wrong. We saw Daron Payne. Got franchise tagged by Washington as another one of those defensive tackles that was probably going to go out and get some money. The reason that he gets franchise tagged. Draymond Jones, you start dropping down a little bit. I'm looking through CBSSports.com's top 100 available free agents. Dalvin Tomlinson, another one of those guys listed in the 30s. And so you start going down. You got Larry Ogunjobi. I can't say his name. I would get
Ogunjobi.
Ogunjobi. That guy. And then Chris Wormley as you get down into the 60s. So if you want an impact player in this, it doesn't seem like there's a guy available in this draft out where the Chiefs could be picking. It's not generally a position that you see rookies come in and just absolutely dominate. It's pretty tough to do. So I don't say slim pickings, but there'd be incentive for the Chiefs to try and reach deals with guys like Colin Saunders. I'm biased to that. I want to see Colin get paid. I don't really care where it is. I'd love to see him stay in Kansas City. We'll see what happens with Derek Nottie, with Brandon Williams. Both those guys obviously have a little bit different roles. I just like Colin, his athleticism. We saw the effort, and I've spent so much time, Matt, and I know I'm going off here, but I want to talk about this play because we talked about Colin Saunders, his athleticism for a guy of his size. We joke about it with the basketball skills. I've had a chance to be around it. He's got handles. If the Chiefs football team had a basketball team, Colin Saunders would be the point guard at 320 pounds. He is really that good, dribbling and just like handling the ball. He's binks, as he calls it. But we saw in the Super Bowl with his sack of Jalen Hurts, where we saw a guy of his size at 320 pounds make a play displaying the athleticism that we have talked about with him for so long as to what makes him different. And there's not another defensive tackle. And I would argue Chris Jones in that mix that could have made the play in that moment that Colin did, showing off his athleticism, his ankle flexion, all of those things to get out and run. And so for that, you can't replace that kind of athleticism and skill. And so for that reason, I hope they would bring him back. I trust Brett Veach and them to make the right decisions and for the organization. I just hope Colin gets taken care of one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, and he's a great story as well. I also think, like I said, Colin plays a role. And he's not a 3-down defensive tackle. He's not a 90-snap guy or whatever. He plays a role. And I think that's how we've seen them fill out this defensive tackle and even defensive line group outside of their stars is get guys that can play a role. You mentioned Mike Dana. I mean, we've seen it, with Alex Okafor in the past and guys like that. Like, find players who can fill roles. I would say, this was kind of the Chiefs' blind spot in the draft for a while. You had Breland Speaks, you had Teno Pasnia, who were second-round picks that never made it to a second contract. So I do think you're seeing them change their perspective a little bit. And obviously, I think Spags coming along helps that as well. Joe Cullen's going to help that a lot. But I even feel like the way they look at this, and Karlaftis was the outlier. I don't think anyone expected him to be there where he was last year. But when you look at how they're going to, replace Frank Clark, how you're going to replace, the 3 defensive tackles who are free agents, I would almost think we see guys who are filling out roles more than we are. All right, at pick 31, we got to get an every down starter. Or, I don't know that that's exactly where they go.
Yeah. And the context of this conversation, we'll get to the interviews here in a sec. The context of this conversation has been about tackles. But I can't iterate this enough because I keep seeing this conversation on social media, Matt, and it's driving me crazy. It's like a push point for me at this point, in that there are Chiefs fans out there who believe that the strategy for the Chiefs starting left tackle will be whoever they can get at 31.
Yeah.
And that they are going to go through free agency and all of this planning on an unknown pick at 31. Even if there's 3 players you like, which is a lot for tackle. When you put first round grades on players, you may have 15 first round grades. I know that sounds weird for people listening. It's like, hey, there's 31 players. Exactly. You may have 15 first round grades on somebody. Even if there were 3 for a tackle, there's still no guarantee that player would be there for you. And if you plan on that and that player's not there, then you are screwed because you already passed free agency. So whatever the Chiefs' strategy is for the offensive line, they're not going into it with any kind of a hope. Now, if it works out that way, great. Player comes in, absolutely kills it, earns the spot. We have not seen that with Andy Reid. He gets to training camp, those veterans get the first reps, and those young guys don't start getting first-team reps. Very rarely have we seen it. I think we saw it with Creed Humphrey. There have been times.
Right.
Obviously, Eric Fisher starting on the right side. But very rarely have we seen a rookie just step in and be the guy right away. So whatever the Chiefs are going to do at left tackle, that plan is not going to be for free agent or for based on what happens in the draft.
It's not going to happen April 27th, right? You're going to have a plan before then, whether it's a trade or free agent signing, whatever it might be. There's not anyone on the roster that I am aware of that is like in a next man up situation. I'm obviously not there in practice every day. I agree with you, BJ. We talked about this, I think even 2 years ago, whenever the Orlando Brown Jr. trade happened. It was, hey, they are not going to run into the year without answers at tackle. And I've had a conversation with Veach back in the day, and it was like 2 things we're always going to have for Patrick: protection and weapons. Now, I would argue this past year the weapons weren't that great. They still won a Super Bowl, but I don't think you want to risk the protection aspect of it. So I'm fascinated to see what will happen at left tackle. Today's the franchise tag deadline. Orlando Brown Jr. is not being tagged. It's going to be fun. That's why I love the NFL, man. There's always, even when you think you have the answer, you don't. You never know what's going to happen.
And the other thing that I will caution people is we are seeing the plan executed in slow motion. They have spent weeks and months planning all of the different iterations and all the different scenarios of what could take place. If we get this guy, we get this guy. If this guy wants more money, they've had all those conversations similar to the draft, in that you put together your plan, and by the time the draft gets here, you literally just execute all the different contingencies of what you could do if such and such happens. That's what they're doing when they're planning. They're not just arguing about players they like the whole time. They go through the players, they put their grades on them, and then they go through all the different scenarios. It's the same thing with free agency. And now we're just seeing the reports yesterday of Orlando Brown Jr. not getting the tag, seeing all the takes come out on social media. It's like, just wait until the plan comes through. They're not just saying, you know what, we don't want Orlando Brown, we're going to give up that value. Let the whole thing play out. I don't know what it is, but I can tell you from being around years ago that they have plans. And again, we see it kind of executed in slow motion. Yeah. So if it doesn't make sense to you, it's because the truth is missing. Somebody told me that
also,
once, and it always stayed with me.
It's worth remembering that Orlando Brown Jr. fired his agent 1 year ago. He's got a new agent. After that, after he got tagged last year, there's an agent change. So who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's get into these interviews. Let's go to this first one, and I want to get your thoughts on Texas. I'm somebody you're probably very familiar with.
A little bit, yeah.
Texas defensive tackle Keondre Coburn. Tell you right now, one of my favorite interviews that we did out at the Shrine Bowl. He's got a great personality, great kid, great agency. Shout out to Murphy and the crew over at Octagon. But yeah, what stands out to you about Keondre Coburn as a player before we go to this interview?
Yeah, a senior leader, powerful. 322 pounds. I think if you talk about, okay, Brandon Williams is probably going to retire after that, coming back and winning a ring. See what's going to happen with some of those free agent defensive tackles, like you mentioned. This is, I think, your day 3 nose tackle prospect who, go back and watch the Alabama game. Alabama could not run the ball against Texas, and Coburn was a huge part of that. I mean, he's loved it within that organization down in Texas. So someone who is, again, I'm not saying he's going to be a starter in the NFL right away. He will become a starter in the NFL, I believe, and I think he's going to play for a really long time because he's just incredibly solid. Not the most athletic, but just incredibly solid, very strong, and great against the run.
And the great thing is you need a lot of those guys. I mean, you need 6 guys, especially with Steve Spagnuolo, that even the guys that are playing a lot, they maybe got 60, 70, maybe 80% if you're talking about like a Chris Jones, percent of the snaps. And for the most part, these guys are rotating. I don't even look at starts anymore for these guys. It depends on what personnel grouping they're in. But a guy like Mike Dana, again, talk about him. It would implore anybody listening to the show, go listen to the interview that Sean Barber and I did with Joe Cohen talking about Mike Dana specifically. He basically said, if I had a team full of Mike Danas with their versatility and the way that he goes about his business, that he'd be a very happy coach. Similar, it probably triggers the old school Chiefs fans into the Lance Long comment, this thing that rings in my ear if we had 53 Lance Longs. But anyway, let's go to that interview with Keondre Coburn. Again, this is out at the East West Shrine Bowl a few weeks ago, talking with the Texas defensive tackle.
Hanging out with Keondre Coburn, the defensive tackle out of Texas. Keondre, thank you for hanging out with us, buddy.
And thank y'all for having me. I'm just blessed.
We're excited. We're excited to talk to you. Want to know a little bit about your background and how you got into football and why you love football.
To be honest, I was a gamer when I was growing up. I was a big little chubby kid that just liked to play games. I lived in California, Los Angeles, California, moved to Houston in 5th grade. And when you move to Texas, Texas is known for football. So my dad literally told me, you can't be in the house all day playing games. You're either going to play sports or do something. So I tried out for football. I'm not going to say I was happy about it at first, but I mean, a little things to where I fell in love with the sport. And ever since then, it's just been football, and I love football. I literally took that whole year after my first little league game season, and I literally just studied football. I mean, I could tell you so much stuff about football in certain little ways, not everything, but tell you stuff I like and what I know. Like, I know most of the details that you need to know and history about football teams and certain situations that ever happened in football. I'm still learning to this day.
What is it about football that you just love? Like, what is it about football that makes you want to do that and play it and make that part of your life?
I mean, it's so many answers I could give you that, and it's different scenarios and different stuff I could give you right now about that. But I take it as it's something that I know I'm good at. It's something that I know that if I work hard at it, I could really become a dominant player and I could become a good player while doing it. Something that can help me, put me in position to where I can help feed my family the best way I can. And they put me as in where I can go argue with people in this society, in this world. Like when we go to sit at the table, a nice restaurant, somebody asks me what I'm doing, playing football. What they doing? A lawyer or something like that. I got something I could compete with because I'm not saying the money the same, but if you do it the right way, you can get the same money in certain ways. And it's something that took pride in, and I enjoy doing since I was a kid, and I don't want to stop playing. And this is a sport that where you also get to hurt somebody. And not saying I like to hurt people, but the same way I get to literally go on the field and perform a lot of dominance, a lot of force, and do whatever it takes me to do to beat another human being to make plays. And it's just a fun sport, and everybody in the world loves football. I mean, who don't love football? If you don't love football, then I don't know what you like. And, even though people want to say football is, the soccer sport, but football, I know, is the one where you throw the football and you catch it or you tap it, something like that. So that's what I love about the sport.
So who's been an inspiration to you, a family member, a coach, throughout your, football journey?
Pretty much most of my life, after 2016 was my aunt died of colon cancer in 2016. She was a blessing, and I'm so glad God put her in my life in the time that I had with her. After that, I kind of, really relied on myself about a lot of things. And, I wish I would have had somebody at the time I really could have talked to as much as I wanted to. But at the same time, it's kind of good to kind of find yourself in a way to where if you could talk to yourself and make a decision for yourself, it's the best way. But then I can say right now, if I need somebody to call right now, it'll be my Coach Davis. I say my Coach Davis, but Coach Davis at the University of Texas, Bo Davis, is probably the best. He literally helped my game change so fast in so many ways where he put me in a position right here, and it's all thank you to him. That's a great human being, a great man, a great coach, and a great person just to have on your team. And I ask him about anything, and I'm just so blessed to have him in my life too.
You mentioned, as a player and as a person that Coach Davis has been great for you. What exactly has he helped you with on the field? Like, where has you felt like he's helped your game the most on the field?
He helped me find myself. He helped me believe in myself. He helped me see that I could be a dominant player in this sport. He helped me believe that I could pass rush. He helped me believe that I could stop the run. He helped me believe that I could go on the field. And if I really believe in I could do it. And he just put belief in me. The fact I saw so much energy and so much, passion that he had into me, I didn't see that in myself at times. And the fact that I say if another human being can see that in somebody else, why can I not see it? So I made a lot of changes in my life after 2021 season, and it's been up since then. I'm just keep adding from that.
What do you want an opposing coach to say about you after they've got done playing you?
Man, that dude right there is a baller. He's a hard worker. It was hard to block him. It was hard to play against him. He knows the game. Things like that I really pride myself in knowing. And when I go on the field, I want at least somebody to talk about me in some type of way. Not bad, but in all type of good ways where they know that they seen something from me, and obviously I did something to impact the game at the time. So things like that.
Is there a game from your career that you can really think of that you really put your best foot forward as a player that you would direct someone to go back and watch?
That's really a hard one. I could easily argue the Bama game. I feel like I played, especially the whole D-line, played with so much good technique. I had a good defense. I can't just put that on myself. Excuse me. But I think that game I showcased a lot of, playing a lot of double, playing up, pass rushing and stuff like that. But, one game that I probably could say this year that, go back and watch and just see the effort I had was probably the Kansas State game. You will always want to have those plays where you can remember forever. And the fact that, I went in the last play of that Kansas State game where they was on a run. They were going down the field to try to score and take the game from us. And the play before that, it was a segment where, when our players out of gap and we missed a sack and all that, and I was on the floor and I was tired. I really wanted to call out. I never like calling out to get out the game. I wanted to at that moment. It was cold. It was a weird type of temperature in Kansas. I don't know. For some reason, that temperature and that weather just takes your breath away. And I just got back in and I just believed in everything that Coach Davis instilled in us and how we finished as a team. And I just did what I do on a regular basis. Just did a pass rush move. Next thing you know, I stripped the ball out and had the game-winning play for us to win. And just for us to get the win, that's all that mattered. I didn't care if I was the person that got the play, but just for us to win. And I will never forget that moment.
Do you think for that play, do you think you could walk me through it from, the moment that you guys are breaking your defensive huddle, getting lined up? What are you seeing? What's going through your mind as that play unfolds up until, the play ends? Okay.
So, like I said, the play before that, it was a fourth down actually. And, I forgot his name. I don't want to say it and mess it up, but I'm going to say AM got out the pocket and really just made a play. First down again. I'm like, man, can't we get off the field? Because it was just fourth down and long. And so we getting back. And at that time, I don't even think we had the timeouts. I don't think we were able to, stop the game because they was going tempo. Kansas State was going tempo. Yeah, they hometown, they whole stadium, all that. Momentum's on their end right now. They just got the ball back and they were going. And so I remember we got the call. I got down. I told them, like, close left. You can tell I'm tired. I get in my stance and I remember just going up, took the guard in, and I just came back under. And I don't know. I just seen for some reason, like I looked up and quarterback still had the ball in the hand. I just like this hand, I don't know, this hand, I need to watch it so I can mark it down. I just reached and hit it. So when I hit it, you see on the film, and I'm trying to pick up the ball. But I looked so tired trying to pick up the ball that I just kicked it. Because that game, we had so many strip fumbles that they kept getting the ball back. We didn't recover not one fumble the whole game. So I'm like, nobody going to get this damn ball this time. So I kicked it, and good thing Jalen Ford was right there to pick it up and steal the game. And rest is history.
So would you have rather that play been at K-State or in shutting the crowd up, pin drop, or would you have rather been that at home so you could have celebrated with all your home fans?
I like how it was, because I wouldn't be here right now if it was at the home. It just would have been different. Probably would have got good pictures and people would have still been cheering my name. But in the day, I was just glad we got the win. A great road win. I think that was probably our first one that season or something like that, I believe. But I'm just happy it was there. So, I could always say, Kansas State, like, the type of way to where I did at your home. I left. It felt so good. It felt like a home game that day. It was cool.
Let's fast forward a little bit. We go through this whole long draft process and we get to draft night, and your phone rings and it's that team. They tell you team X they're ready to pick you. They're drafting you right now. What are you going to be feeling? What is the emotions that's going to be going through you at that point?
Man, to be honest, I don't know if I'm going to cry or I'm going to get up, scream, I'm going to yell. I'm going to just be so blessed because I'm just going to take a moment and pray to God, pray to my aunt. And I'm going to just thank her for all the positions that she put me in. And I'm just thank God for everything he has done for me. And it just be like I finally made it. And it's not done there yet. But then I'm probably going to kiss my girl, kiss her belly because I'm having a child. And then she's pregnant right now. Probably kiss my mom, not kiss my dad on the cheek. Kiss my dad on the cheek, probably forehead because he got a bald head. But, I don't know. I've been asking myself that too. I don't know. I really don't cry. So if I do cry, that just shows you how much love that I have for this sport. The fact that I got picked. So I'm just going to be blessed at the end of the day.
Keandre, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, that was defensive tackle from Texas, Keondre Coburn. Matt, what stood out to you about that interview?
I love where he says, in football, you get to hurt people. I think that's what you want playing on defense to say. I agree with him. The Alabama game was phenomenal, but yeah, what a fun guy, and your guys did a great job of getting some good nuggets out of him. But he started 45 games at Texas, BJ. He started for 4 years and rarely missed a game, and I think that speaks to the type of competitor you're getting when you draft him, but also the pass rush this past year was much, much better. And as he mentioned, Coach Davis does a great job with those guys down there. So I think he's a starter in the NFL coming out of day 3.
How much versatility do you think he has before we move on to the next guy, which is actually kind of a fun one because he's a Kansas City kid. But going back to Coburn real fast, put a bow on him. Just what kind of versatility do you think he has? Because that's something Spags covets.
Yeah, I think he's a 0 to 1 guy. I don't think he's playing 3. I don't think he has that quickness. He has good footwork. He really does. But I think his like he said, he's more of a 2-gap guy. Definitely someone you want to plug in the middle in the run game who will then give you some pass rush, but it's not necessarily, his trademark. So I don't see him sliding all the way down, like Chris Jones has done playing all over the map. But I think on the interior, he's someone that has a lot of value.
All right, cool. Let's move on to the next player, and this is a Kansas City kid. His name's Ikenna Enechukwu. I may have butchered that. I know Kent at the beginning of this interview that he does with them out there in Vegas. He corrects it and he gets it right. So I probably just butchered it even though I was given the example, still can't get that right. But he's a fun player to watch. His highlights on tape. He is an athletic dude. Matt, what stands out to you about him, and what kind of combine did you see him have?
Yeah, you're right. Athletic. I think he ran a 4.7. I think he was 268 pounds in the combine, so he probably leaned out a little bit. I think the thing that I noticed on tape even was someone that could fill out more. He had the room to get bigger and maybe develop into I honestly thought he looked best as a 5 technique in terms of his length, his athleticism, his power. So that's also, this dude just has a nonstop motor, and it runs hot. I mean, he plays with a ton of toughness. He's super, super physical. So just a really impressive player that, I mean, he's a bully at times. I know you're like, oh, he's sub 270, kind of a tweener, but he plays with a ton of aggression, and that's something I always like getting from defensive linemen. So like you said, a Kansas City guy that I think his best football is still ahead of him, but the combine was really impressive for somebody his size to run and jump as well as he did.
Let's go to that interview again. This is with Rice defensive lineman Ikenna Enechukwu.
Ikenna Enechukwu, defensive end, Rice University. Creative destruction.
Hanging out with KC kid Ikenna Enechukwu from Rice University. Ikenna, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank
man.
you. You almost had Ikenna Enechukwu.
Enechukwu, ouch!
Almost there.
Enechukwu. I tried. Before we were doing this, I was trying to figure out how to pronounce it. But man, it's always fun to talk to KC kids at things like this, getting to see some kids represent.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Scott Jr. is from Baser, so he's playing over. He's Southern Miss, so like getting to talk to you at one of these things is pretty cool too.
Yeah, it's awesome too. It's like the draft is coming to KC this time, and like I just feel like it's a sign like I have to come out this year. Like this is like just like the perfect timing, like a sign from God that I got it. That's my year. Yeah,
like so the draft's gonna be happening in KC, and you're gonna be. I'm assuming you're gonna be in KC for the draft. I would imagine.
For sure, yeah, I have to.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about like how long were you born in KC? Are you like an original KC kid? Did you move from anywhere, or have you just always been a KC kid?
I've always been a KC kid. It's like my parents are from Nigeria, but they came down here, and like I was born St. Joseph Hospital on State Line Road. Yeah. Then I grew up like in the same school district at Hickman Middle School District, and just that's all I ever knew. Like I really didn't go far from home. Like I've always been South Kansas City.
So Ruskin High School, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about your football career. How did you get started in football? When did you get started in football?
That's a great story because I did not play sports at all. I was like just a tall, skinny, nerdy kid up until 8th grade. Then I found like my social studies teacher that I really liked. I liked him, but so I found he was gonna be the 8th grade football coach. So I was like, oh, this is the perfect time for me to be comfortable and learn how to play football. So I went out and tried to play football. But I didn't know that I was signed up to be part of an actual team. I thought I was just going out there to practice and learn. Mm-hmm. So I finally got to actually play a game against another team. I was like, "Whoa!" I didn't know this. I didn't know this was on my agenda. But and I ended up having a good year. I ended up like picking up the game like pretty quickly and like learning how to be tough and like grew like a whole different personality from it. And it's been awesome ever since. At that point, started watching NFL films. NFL Network, Football Life documentaries, and top 10s, all that stuff.
So, are you a Chiefs fan then? Is that
for sure?
Yeah.
Like as the year I started playing football was the year that Andy Reid came in, and like they had that 9-0 run up until we lost. I think it's either the Colts or the Chargers. But like it was just like always like excited to like was to get to fall in love with like the Chiefs and Chiefs football. Tom Holly was like one of my favorite players growing up, like because like that's why I wear 91 right now actually. So I always looked up to him and Justin Houston back then when they were wreaking havoc on that Chiefs D line.
Is there anybody throughout your life, families, coaches that kind of like just inspired you to pursue football and to be the best you can at it?
So yeah, first of all, my 8th grade coach, Coach Todd, he was definitely like the first person to believe in me. He told me that I could go to like any school I wanted to. Like at first, like I wasn't even sure if I believed in myself, but like I definitely could. I definitely showed us that I'm going to school at Rice, like one of the top schools for athletics and academics, and I had like all these Ivy League offers too, and like also like with some big time football offers. Like so, I probably could have gone to almost any school I wanted.
Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about your game here a little bit as well. What are the things leading up to the draft that you're wanting to kind of focus on improving in your game?
Yeah, definitely trying to like just improve my athleticism or like just show off my athleticism, because like is it like there's a narrative like I'm like I'm not like the best like at bending the edge, or like I'm like a little stiff in the hips like when it comes to bending the edge. Like I feel like that's just false in my opinion. So I've been trying to show off how I can like actually do that like here at this at the Shrine Bowl practice, and also I'm gonna work on it like up until the combine. I've been working on some techniques to to just get me right in that situation, like using my eyes more. You know, your eyes fall where your body goes.
When you step on the football field, what's your mentality? What are you about on the football field, and how do you go about approaching the game on the game day?
Oh, but man, I first thing I like my pregame ritual is like finding a way to make a personal vendetta with the opposing team's offensive line, like just convincing myself that they like flip my cereal over one day or something.
What's the craziest story you've come up with to get yourself fired up like that?
Oh man, I don't know. I guess they I don't know. I just all blame them for me falling down as a kid or something.
So what's your go-to or your favorite pass rush move?
For sure the push, pull, and rip. I've been using it since high school. Coach Walker taught me that. My D-line coach, he actually played for the Chiefs too. So I've been using that move like consistently. Like it's like really a unique move, like the way I use it, because like I don't even see that many NFL defensive linemen like using it as consistently as I do. But like it just like takes advantage of like my length and my strengths. Like when I extend, like at this point, like I have long arms, so like they're trying to refit. That's when I can pull them through and rip under them.
So you break the defensive huddle. Can you walk me through your process going into your push pull here? What are you looking for as you're lining up? What are you looking for out of the offense to get into this move, and how you're executing it throughout the play?
Yeah, like hopefully if I'm showing them a lot of like power, a lot of bull rushes up until then I know they're gonna like be trying to lean against me to fight it. So anytime like I have a big leaner, like they basically like put themselves in the coffin, because yeah, they're done for at that point. So I'm definitely like looking for them to lean into me. And yeah, if it doesn't work, I'm a big effort guy, big velocity guy. I'll find a way around the block eventually.
All right, let's talk real quick about draft weekend. What are those emotions going to be, especially with the draft being in Kansas City? Like what's it going to feel like? I sometimes I just like play it out in my, like, just like when I'm driving, like I start crying. Just like I know the tears are going to come for sure, man. It's like just even like being here, it's like totally unexpected, for me, that kid who just wanted to like learn football in 8th grade, like, and like no, like just even like getting to D1 football, because no one at my high school was like really playing college football like that. No one, like, people were barely getting to D2. So
what's the celebratory meal? You get drafted, everything calms down, everything. You're back home in Kansas City. What meal are you going to? A dinner? Calling it in? What's the meal?
Oh yeah, definitely gonna get some homemade Nigerian food. Definitely gonna, my parents, they love to like cook motherland food, some jollof rice, some fufu, like a lot of good meats, a lot of spicy food. So it's gonna be great.
All right, a few KC questions before we get you out of here.
Gotcha.
Okay, what do you miss most about KC?
Okay, so I miss the barbecue and I miss the snow. I just too rarely do I like not see snow. I'm down in Houston. It's like It's literally Christmas Day and it's 80 degrees outside. Like, does not feel like Christmas at all.
All right, what's the best barbecue in Kansas City?
I think it's Gates Barbecue. I mean, I know it's Gates Barbecue. That's
You said I know.
Yeah.
What's the order? What's the order?
I'm gonna be a slab of ribs and some baked beans.
Okay. All right. I mean, I was gonna add something else. I can't. No, that's great, man. We're rooting for you. It's always great to see a KC kid. We're absolutely pulling for you here, and it's great to see a fellow Chiefs fan too.
Yeah.
All right, that was Kansas City kid, as Kent Swanson said multiple times, Ikenna Enechukwu. I think I said that right, from Rice. Matt, I was looking up his stats, compared him to, I love what he said about Tamba Ali. It's funny because when he said that during the interview, I went and tried to get Tamba on the phone. I called like everybody that I knew that knew Tamba, because I don't have his number. Try to get him on the phone just to do a little FaceTime, because I thought it would be cool.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Grew up watching him. And Tamba's such a good dude, but couldn't get a hold of him. But what stood out to you about the interview? Again, what do you like? Let's put a bow on him as a player and where you think he might go. Let's look at NFL.com. Says maybe practice squad, late round pickup type guy. Love the energy and the effort that you see on tape, though.
Yeah, I like that he addressed his weaknesses, being a little bit stiff-hipped, that type of, and talking about, his push-pull rip. That's the stuff that I like, to talk to the players about. I guess, the intricacies of what they do, their understanding of what it takes to have success. I don't think he's necessarily someone that's like absolutely UDFA. Late round pick makes sense to me. I think the combine helped just to show that better athleticism, better burst, especially at his size. This is not, and we talked about before, this is not a great defensive line draft. It's really not. So I think his versatility, it will be important. It will matter. And, the Chiefs have a history of keeping guys local. So I think, he fits what Spags wants to do up there, especially the body type. He was 6'7". If I remember right, I think he came in at 6'7" and ran a 4.7. So that definitely fits the mold, so to speak.
Yeah, he's listed at 264 pounds. I looked it up. He's same size as Tombo. Tombo's about 276, so a little bit lighter.
Yeah, I do think he'll play heavier. He'll fill out, and he's too broad to not fill out.
Cool. All right, let's go to the final interview here. Fun player to watch. He's in Big 12 country, so heard his name a lot during the K-State games that I watched. But obviously, there's another connection here. This is defensive lineman Dante Stills out of West Virginia. It's actually Gary Stills' son. Gary Stills, all-time Chiefs leading special teams tackler. That Gary Stills. But Matt, he's a fun player to watch. He's got some juice, it seems like, up front.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit undersized. Came in at 6'3.5", only 286 pounds. So, but that's fine for a rotational 3 technique, a rotational pass rusher. I think he has some special teams upside as well. He ran really well at the combine. I think he came in at 4.85 with a pretty respectable 10-second split as well. So, like you said, there's some juice up front, a ton of production. Whether it's as a 3 technique or as a 2 gapping 1 tech, I think there's some ability for him to work into a rotation as a guy. Again, the Chiefs you're drafting last in the first round. You're drafting last in every round. You're probably looking for players that can fill a role and have a trait-specific job. And I think he definitely fits as that. All right, we need kind of like Colin Saunders is, right? We need somebody that can refresh things. We need somebody that can come in and, give us 5-6 snaps as a pass rusher on the inside. That's the type of role I think he's going to fit right away.
Yeah, it's interesting when I talk about Colin Saunders and like his athleticism, his size, the way in which he's used. I forget, and I'm looking it up right now just to make sure that I've got this right because it always surprised me when I looked at it. But yeah, Colin Saunders listed at 324 pounds. So when I see these undersized, guys, Colin Saunders is not the tallest player. He's listed at 6 feet tall. I knew he's 6 feet, 6'1". But if you would ask me, I thought he was 290. I didn't think he was going to be 3. The way he moved, the way that he carries it. Yeah. So when you talk about Dante Stills and some of these other undersized defensive tackles, you were talking about Kalecki, the guy who ran the Cansey, the Cansey kid. Yeah. That he's 280 pounds and undersized. So you immediately think, he's kind of like Colin Saunders because the athleticism. Colin Saunders weighs 40 pounds more than that. So not a straight comparison there. But again, here's the interview that we did with West Virginia defensive lineman Dante Stills.
This time it's Ikenna trying to get off the right side. And again, West Virginia's defensive line has stood up early, and that's Stills with the push of the tackle.
But Dante Stills is one of the best players on this defense.
Just taste Stills there. So another pass for Slovis out of the shotgun. Forced out of the pocket. He's going to go get it. Dante Stills.
Dante, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We're having a good time here. I just want to start, your journey into football. How did you get into football? Where did that start? And how much has that meant to you going through this?
When I was younger, I started playing when I was 8 years old. At first I didn't play football. I was actually a soccer player. So then, I show up to, the field, passing football. Then the guy I know, Dion Dobbs, he asked my mom if we wanted to play. And that's where it started. That day my brother suited up and went out to practice. I started to flag football, so I didn't really do anything. And I was also a running back. So going through everything. I had a dad that played. So just watching him growing up, understanding, he's doing big things. I wanted to be like that. So I have older, so me and my older brother really took time to really care about football, understand it, and make it pretty much our priority. and for our house, like really, because my mom's very invested in football. She understands football. She's seen it all. She's been to big games, lose, win. So, and my mom's really invested. My grandparents very invested too. So really, you know, I didn't know where I wanted to go for college. At first, it's crazy to say, like, I wasn't really leaning more towards West Virginia just because, you know, everybody expected me to go there. I actually wanted to just maybe take a visit somewhere else, maybe to see how it was. But, you know, it's very hard not to, you know, leave, like want to leave. I love the state. I love the people. I love the program. You know, it definitely, you know, helped me a lot, you know, so yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah.
Is there anybody, you know, that influenced you towards football while growing up? I mean, obviously you mentioned your dad and your brothers and stuff are playing, but, you know, everybody that had these influences on you, pushing you towards that kind of not goal, but path.
It's really, you know, I feel like me personally, I feel like we just, like, you know, chose it ourselves. It's kind of something that we literally just started love doing, like love to do it, and really take it seriously. So then, but also, you know, my mom will always make sure I was focused, you know, before practice, before games, always motivate me. You know, my grandparents always motivate me. Everybody motivates me, just because, like, it's really just like, you know, just watching our dad go through 8-10 years. I'm like, yo, I want to do that. You know what I'm saying? But just watching on TV, just watching how big the games are, the best of the best guys, you know, and eventually I want to play with the best of the best. You know, that's the whole goal. So it's really just like that the inner mindset, the inner drive in me, and my whole family, you know, always supported me. So, you know, I didn't care what I did, as long as, you know, I did 100% and I was fully locked in on it for sure.
Nice. So, do you have like a coach or somebody that has come along in your life that's maybe taken your game up to another level that you really feel like has influenced you at your development as a football player?
I do feel like every coach I've had has definitely influenced me in some way. Because there's a lot of people that, you know, I'm close with, you know, still to this day. You know, I can still call them if I want to, text them. So that's how, like, type of coaches I was around growing up. They really cared about football. They cared about, you know, their development. It's really, you know, college coaches, I feel like, you know, I because in high school and stuff, I mean, I had great coaches. But really, you know, once you got to college, it's really breaking down, you know, every step of being a good D lineman. So I really had to, you know, take a step back. First year, you know, I was used to being, you know, highly recruited high school, and then get to college, you know, I wasn't playing a lot. So I had to really learn how to, you know, be, you know, a defensive lineman, and understand, you know, the little things matter. You know, just the, you know, the drive me, you know, I wanted to start. I remember asking my position coach freshman year, Bruce Tall. I was asking him, you know, is there any way I could start? And, you know, he told me the truth. He was like, you know, not this year, just because there's older guys in front of me that had a lot of experience, which, you know, what they did. You know, so I just watched them every day, trying to learn off them and help me, you know, over the next 4 years. So, because at one point, you know, I was, you know, senior in high school, then I'm back at the bottom. So, you know, even right now, you know, literally I'm a rookie. So, you know, stuff like that. So I just keep learning.
What's your mentality as a player once you step on the football field? You know, your first steps onto that field. What is your mentality once that game's starting?
To try to be at peace. Like, it sounds crazy, but, like, because football ain't a peaceful game. But, you know, as a D lineman, you know, I feel like, you know, like, my big thing is be at peace in the trenches. Just because, you know, like, I feel like all the times that, you know, I wasn't, like, at peace, or, like, I wasn't in a good mindset, I'd mess up, had bad plays, wasn't in my right gap, stuff like that. But once I calmed down, you know, I focus on every little step, you know, I feel like I'm at my best. So it's really just them things.
So let's go through your kind of build up in the week. As you're starting stuff off, what are you looking at on film? What sorts of things are you doing to help yourself prepare for your opponent coming up that week?
It's really just like me, like my biggest thing is scheme wise. You know, I like to know where the ball's going. So, you know, I might look at the back or the tight end, or, you know, the splits of the O lineman. Then after that, you know, I look at tendencies, you know, how close the offensive line, or what hand down, if it's a hand down during pass run, if it's down during both, if it's up during both. Stuff like that, you know, it's really just like, you know, this past year, I really took, you know, film very to heart, because, you know, I feel like that was going to, make me a better player. Let's say the past years, I wasn't really invested in film like that. As I should, I watched film, but I wasn't as invested. Yeah. Like, cause there's a difference between watching and investing. So, I definitely I'll say the last couple years, I've really started to invest, watching film and understand, and it makes the whole game slower. Like, just understanding what the offense is going to run that week, it makes everything a lot slower when it comes to game time. Because if you didn't watch no film that week, good luck. Just be right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Good luck. So.
Is there a game that, from your career that you just remember as not your best game, but a game that you would direct someone to watch to go see the best version of you, or you to showcase the most skills that you have?
I ain't gonna lie, like my last game. Yeah, because it sounds crazy. I feel like every game I showed like my skill and my ability. But this last game, I just knew it was my last one. And I feel like I left it all out there. I know I probably should say the last game, but that's just I feel like the last game was probably I played the hardest. Because I wanted to win. I weren't bowl eligible, so it's really just like go out there, just give it all you got. So that's exactly what I did.
So you come off the field after a game. What do you want the opposing coach to be saying about you when they're up on the podium?
It's crazy because a lot of pretty much every team that in the Big 12 came up to me after the game and told me how good of a player I was, and that that I put a lot of time in the university, and really I've been a problem. Which I feel like I don't want to say every game I was a problem, because there's times where I had bad games. Yeah. But I feel like this career in general, I definitely I laid my mark. So it's definitely great. I definitely want them to say I was hard to block, hard to scheme off of. I'm a good player. That's the whole goal, is just to have that respect, really.
Do you have what's your favorite pass rush move, or your go-to pass rush move?
Go-to is really man, I like, a dip rip. I like the swipe. I like the boot to the long arm, pretty much. So I like to be I like the strength more than speed. So I rather use my strength as an advantage.
So you're breaking the defensive huddle. You're going to get lined up at this line. What are you looking for? What's going through your mind? What are you looking for? And as the play goes on to set up whatever move you want to go with, what are you trying to do throughout that whole process?
First thing I look at is where the back. Usually where the back is at is when the offensive line is flowing off. So that's the first thing I go to. And then I look at his stance. So if he's top heavy, then I try to usually swim him off the line, or I might push pull him or something like that in the pass. Width of the feet, as long as guys are too elongated in the stands and they can't really kick. There's guys that have good base and they actually move. So it really depends on who I'm going against and what team I'm going against.
So you beat this block, and your hips, you get your hips around, you're pointing to the quarterback. What's going through your mind now? You have that path to the quarterback.
Listen,
what's going through your mind?
I don't care who you are. It makes your eyes wide open. Cause one, I don't listen, it's crazy because when you get free, everything slows down, but you're still going the pace of what you're actually going. So it's there's really times where I black out coming around the corner. So I'm it's so open. I'm just going to kill this dude. But sometimes, but obviously, it's definitely a good feeling. Yeah. A great feeling. You're okay, I definitely get this sack. I'm definitely get this TFL. It definitely gets you. That's probably the most exciting thing about being defensive lineman. It's knowing you got a straight shot to whoever's had the ball. So,
all right, last question we'll do here.
Good.
It's draft night. You're there. You see your phone ring. You see that you're getting drafted. What's going through your head?
Listen,
who's with you? Hugging?
It's gonna be my whole family, my grandparents, my mom, my brothers, the people that supported me. I probably have a few friends that I really consider real close, teammates, old teammates, and I'm just gonna cry, probably my eyes out, because it's something that every kid that plays football wants. They want that call. And it'll be something that all the work that you put in, it'll be worth it. But the real work is the beginning. It's now you have a full job. It's you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't say it's a job. It's more just it's really a hobby. At this point, a job's not even a thing. It's a daily routine. I'm kind of used to waking up early and doing all this practice and stuff like that. So it's kind of a routine. So I'm just used to it. I love it. So it's something that I'm definitely not gonna take for granted, for sure.
Oh, Dante, we greatly appreciate it. We appreciate your time. Good luck the rest of this week. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Again, Dante Stills, defensive lineman out of West Virginia. Matt, in talking with Dante before that interview and then after it was done and just walking around, he is the definition of an energy giver. It does not take a long time spending any time around him to know that obviously it's not only that to get an opportunity to be around Coach Reed, but it's the type of thing that Coach Reed talks about all the time. He wants guys that can create energy. Colin Saunders, similar kind of personality. And that you can see a personality like Dante Stills fitting in very well with a Chris Jones, a Colin Saunders, just because the way he's wired, the way he carries himself. It was a fun player to talk to for sure.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard a player talk about like blacking out. They're so excited in a quarterback, but whatever it takes, man. No, I think, in terms of scheme fit, BJ, the fact that he's played all over that Mountaineers defensive line is huge for what they have going in Kansas City. And I also think the athleticism, like you said, he's got a good first step quickness to his game, but he also plays with power. So as an undersized, or at least as a lean, 286 pounds, a lot of that's upper body for him. I definitely think, it's going to be late rounds for him, most likely. Round 5 and on would be where I would put his range right now. But I do think he can work into a rotation and be a good player.
Cool. All right, Matt, before we wrap this show up, any other thoughts just on this draft? And I think I ask you this every year, and it might be kind of early in the process, but Brett Veach generally talks about, he's consistently talked about having different pockets within the draft of, you talked about, not a lot of top end defensive tackle talent in this draft outside of Jalen Carter. And we know the issues that he has. Brian Brees, you mentioned, kid from Pitt, you mentioned, but where are the kind of pockets in which you can see, whether the guys that we talked to right here or the other dozens of players in this draft, where do you kind of see the value for the defensive tackles in this class kind of going relative to the skill and the round they should go?
Yeah, I think late round 2, well, I would say round 3. Round 3, I think, is where we're going to see the pockets of defensive tackles go. It feels this year like there's going to be a run on corners and defensive ends somewhat early, and that you're going to have guys get pulled into the first round that maybe should be a second round pick. I think with defensive tackle, round 3, we're going to see a lot of guys go, because while there's not a lot of superstar defensive tackles, there's a lot of players that are good minus one thing. They might be good minus a 3-cone time, or they might be good minus an injury history, or whatever it might be. So I think round 3 is where you start to overlook some of that and say, like, okay, this guy's just a good player. This is where we feel comfortable drafting him based on the risk factors that come into play. So that's where I would kind of target this year, is you could get a pretty good player in the 3rd round.
All right, good stuff there from ESPN's Matt Miller. Make sure to check out the other KCSN draft show with the executive director of the East-West Shrine Bowl, Eric Galco, joining the guys. They will be breaking down the linebackers in this year's class. They will be recording that. You could find that tomorrow, Wednesday, on the KCSN podcast channels. And let me know in the comment section after you hit that like and subscribe button if you like, within these videos, if you like the music bed underneath. We saw it in the last 2 interviews, did not do that for the Keondre Coburn one. So let me know in the comment section there on YouTube if you like the music underneath for those packages, or if you want me to leave it out as I'm producing these things. We're here for you, everybody. That's why we do this. But appreciate everybody for hanging out with us and checking out those interviews. Make sure, again, hit like and subscribe. We've got plenty of content getting you ready for the NFL draft and free agency for the Kansas City Chiefs. Appreciate everybody for spending part of your day with us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, the fastest growing sports media network in Kansas City. Check out these videos that feature our team of more than 15 former players, insiders, and analysts, bringing you the best Chiefs coverage you can find. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.